and then to maybe be just more mindful outside of meditation of that's not who I am at my core. I'm going to let that go. Or no, we're going to start talking to ourselves a little bit differently. And that's so vital to changing anything in life, right?
Hi, friend, and welcome to the Girlfriend's Guide to Midlife podcast. I'm your host, Cathy, 47 years young, navigating the roller coaster of midlife right alongside you. When I realized how much there was to figure out in this season of life, I thought, who better to turn to than our girlfriends? Together, we'll dive into real conversations, share wisdom, and embrace all the messy, beautiful moments of midlife. So grab your favorite drink and let's jump right in. I'm so excited you're here. Hey friend, welcome to another episode. I'm so excited to be here again with Ravyn, another friend of mine. And this is our second episode together. If you didn't get a chance to watch episode 32, Ravyn shares her story of really like a car accident that led to a spiritual awakening and really a midlife reinvention, from like finance guru in the military to a Reiki practitioner and now owning her own business called Conscious Colorado Collective. And it's a beautiful story. I really wanted to invite her back because the message is just profound. And I think what we find ourselves in midlife doing a lot is questioning and reinventing and leaning into purpose. And sometimes that can get really confusing because we start, becoming curious about things that maybe we didn't grow up learning. And then we wonder, is this okay? Should I be doing this? There's a little bit of guilt and shame and curiosity and all of that. So today we're going to have a beautiful conversation. We're going to do it in a Dear Cathy style episode because I've had lots of friends reach out and have some really profound questions for Ravyn about the intersection of faith, spirituality, and all the things. And so thank you for coming back. You came back.
Thank you for having me.
I didn't scare you off last time.
No, it was great.
Okay, awesome. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing your story last time. And I appreciate you digging into some of these questions with me.
Sure.
Because some of them I'm curious about too, but I know spirituality, religion, all of that can be really confusing and challenging, especially when we're already going through a lot of that in midlife.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I agree.
So, okay, you ready to just dig in?
Let's do it.
I have about 7 questions. I hope we can get through them all. But
sure.
So the first listener wrote, Dear Cathy, I loved hearing Ravyn's story in episode 32. It was so inspiring to hear how she navigated such a big life transition. I'm curious what her spiritual life looked like before the accident. So was she following the Mormon faith or another Christian path at the time? Had she ever studied the Bible or aligned with more traditional religion? I'd love to hear more about what she believed and practiced before stepping into the role of a healer.
Sure.
That's a little bit more about your story.
Yeah, that's great. So I will say that my family relocated to Colorado in 2017. And shortly thereafter, I really felt this hunger for spirit, for a better just relationship with God all around for our family. And my husband was raised Mormon, and I was raised in a non-denominational church. All of that to say, all that mattered to me was that my children were being brought up with the foundation of Christ. And so before the accident, I took the step to be converted. I was baptized. And that is sincerely a story for another day because there was a lot of unfolding that happened thereafter. All of that to say, I remain true to my testimony of Christ. I have such a fondness and great appreciation for the Mormon Church, especially the Cordera and Pine Creek ward here in Colorado Springs. And also, I would say that my own belief system is not fully captured within the doctrine that exists within the LDS Church, so that I have a much wider lens. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. and helpful, and will probably lend itself to some other. We have lots of other questions.
Sure.
So dear Cathy, Ravyn's story from military life to healer was so inspiring, but I'm especially curious about how she navigates the intersection of spirituality and religion, particularly since her husband is Mormon. That feels like a paradox. How do they honor such different belief systems under one roof? And how does she reconcile her spiritual path with her family's more traditional faith?
Yes, excellent questions. So my boys are at tender ages. They are 10, 12, and 13, all middle school ages this year. And it is my own belief as their mother that they're not ready to explore spirituality just yet. It is my personal preference that they continue to build that foundation on Christ and through I apologize, through scriptures that will serve them on their path. And I
Mm,
think that as we continue to grow in Christ and to grow in our relationship with God, overarching, then we can start to work on that discernment that allows us to explore spirituality with a lens that creates a structure of safety. And also, again, it goes back to discernment. If I could say that better, I would say that it all goes back to discernment. And for my family, my husband has always been one who fully embraced who I was at the core of myself. So I said it best when I informed him early in our marriage that he allowed me to be that childlike version of myself, and I felt safe enough to be that version of myself with him, which is so important,
mhm,
especially when we throw ourselves into such things as a military career. And so much of our genuine, authentic self has to be put on the back burner. So, all of that to say that my husband has been fully supportive of my journey. He has voiced his concerns when it has felt necessary to him, and that we just continue to go to God together to ensure that we are both being fed in spirit and also that we continue to support each other, knowing that there is no one path
mm,
that is certain.
mhm. Yeah, so a follow-up, just my curiosity.
Yeah,
Do you go to church
I
with
do.
your
I
kids?
do.
I wasn't sure if you were allowed to, like not
Sure.
leaning it. Like I don't know all the Mormon rules, and I think that there are rules, but
Sure.
yeah, what does that look like?
Well, I will say that in the Mormon faith, they have families and members that are deemed active or non active, depending on your regular attendance rate.
Hmm.
I would say that our family overall, just due to military lifestyle and sincere burnout from both of our careers, my husband and I, we were less active for a
Hmm.
long time. And it was truly the beginning of this year when my middle son, his own conviction with his friend group at church, had him saying, I am not doing the right things that I need to be doing at church. And I want to be following the right path.
Hmm.
And so he really spoke to our souls and put us in check and was the message directly from God that we needed to be more involved as a family unit. So, all that to say, I don't get to go every week that they go.
Hmm.
My husband, though, has become more active in the church as a leader for our children as he sees that they're growing. I think that
Hmm.
we all have that one day when your child comes down the stairs and you're like, oh my gosh, did you grow last night? Your face is
Yeah,
different.
totally. Oh my gosh.
And so I think that that awareness for my husband this year really made him feel convicted to step more into his faith. And I want to support that all
Yeah.
the time when I can.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you talk about just discernment too at certain ages because, I mean, as the role of parenting is really to protect and guide. And part of that, there is a phase in life. Like my boys are 19 and 22. They were
Mm.
raised going to church, really solid foundation. They are amazing humans.
Aw,
And I think what's been really cool is to watch them, like and in middle school, they needed that. They needed
yeah,
those mentors. They needed that foundation.
right.
And now watching them, step in and explore and ask questions,
Yes,
but still with a foundation.
right.
Right. That's been really cool to see and navigate. And, it is hard as a parent to let go and to allow them to become who they're going to become in their relationship with their spiritual walk.
Right.
But I'm doing the same thing, right? So it's
Right.
kind of, I don't know. Anyway, I think that what you're doing is awesome. I
Oh,
think
thank
it's
you.
really encouraging too. The next question, it says, Dear Cathy, I've been exploring some spiritual practices lately, things like energy healing, meditation, and part of me really connects with them. But because I grew up in a traditional Christian home, I can't help but feel some guilt or fear, like maybe I'm doing something wrong. I kind of touched on this in the beginning, but it says, I often feels like I have to choose between staying true to my faith and following what feels aligned now. Is it possible to embrace both? Can I explore these new paths without abandoning my Christian identity?
Sure.
So I kind of hear in this the question of, can you be religious and spiritual?
Right.
Right? Like that's what this kind of sounds to me like.
I would say that some of my favorite mentors have been both religious and spiritual. And it goes back to having that foundation that we talked about that's so important to know where you can come back to at any time, that on your journey, on your quest for fulfillment, that the vastness of the spiritual community can offer, that foundation that we have that we're talking about, we can always draw on our own experience, our integrity, our discernment, and the Holy Spirit. And I would say that absolutely. I do not know the verse, but I do know that in the Bible it says to pray and then to meditate. And the
Mhm.
meditation is where we receive the guidance. And in a world that is full of so much noise and such little downtime, I would say that there is no greater way to get closer to God than to start to feel safe in exploring your spirituality and what does resonate with you and what can just continue to help feed your spirit in a way that is beneficial for you and those that you touch every day.
Yeah, I love that. I would say in my own personal walk, like as I have really leaned into meditation as a source of strength,
Mm,
it helps just in my busy mind calm myself. But I find in those moments, that's where I'm actually becoming closer to God. Like my relationship with God, Holy Spirit, Jesus, like has been stronger now in the last, I'd say, 5 years than in my first 35, 36, 40 years of
sure.
life, just because it's been more about getting quiet and listening and having a conversation. It almost feels more relational,
Agreed. Yeah,
whereas
absolutely.
like sometimes, I don't know, my first 40 years of life, I feel like it was just more like, I don't know, robotic.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it has to feel that way, but that's how it felt to
Sure.
me. And
Sure.
I don't know if anybody else resonates with that, but that's just how it
Well,
felt
I
to
do,
me.
if that helps. When I started my meditation journey, I went to YouTube and I found guided meditations because it felt very unfamiliar and
Yeah.
counterproductive to try to sit with my monkey brain at the time and to also have these expectations to be able to sit in silence and learn these skills without having a safe way to explore. And so I think that a piece of advice that's coming to mind is find a meditative guide that you trust,
Mhm.
that you know where they're operating from, and lean into taking some guided sessions with the knowing that being able to get to that soft quiet spot and to open your container to be in communion with spirit, which is what you're talking about, it
Yeah.
comes. And what I kind of heard you say was, it didn't feel right away. Well, I think anything we start doesn't feel right. Going to the gym and starting that first class where there's movements involved and you don't know the moves. We all
So
have to start
true.
somewhere.
So
Yeah.
true. So true. So in 2020, when the world was crashing and falling apart, not really, but yes, and I was a school counselor,
Wow.
one of the tools that the district I worked for provided us was a free download of the Headspace app,
Perfect.
which was you can pick your teacher. There's like a few different teachers, but it really taught me how to get comfortable and in
Mm,
being quiet and finding just that space that I felt like I needed because so
yeah.
much was out of control out there. it really just helped me find a little bit more control in here. I think
Yeah.
that that's kind of how I would describe meditation.
Absolutely. I think that it also helps us to recognize what is on autopilot all day long
Mm,
and what is no longer serving us that's on autopilot. And then to maybe be just more mindful outside of meditation of that's not who I am at my core. I'm going to let that go. Or
mm,
no, we're going to start talking to ourselves a little bit differently.
mm.
And that's so vital to changing anything in life, right? Just
Yeah.
noticing.
And I think it's hard to not notice unless you give yourself permission to become aware, to
Agreed.
get quiet. Like when you get quiet, you start to become aware of like, oh,
Yeah.
actually that I can hear I'm going to say I can hear the voices in my head and I'm going to sound crazy, but we all have them. We all talk to
Sure.
ourselves all day long. Like it just, it's actually really profound when you actually realize that you're doing that.
Yes.
And then you hear what you're saying.
Yes.
And it can be actually really scary too.
Sure. Well, change is scary for our subconscious. And if we're
Mm-hmm.
thinking about changing something about ourselves that's at our fundamental core level,
Mm-hmm.
then our subconscious is going to do everything to get us to not continue to practice that so that it can stay safe because these are the things that has kept us safe before.
Mm-hmm.
All of that to say it's a very brave thing to
Yeah.
step into meditation of any kind with yourself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Okay. Question 4. Dear Cathy, I've spent so much of my life focused on what's doing expected, being responsible, productive, and keeping everything together. And I'm sure every woman
Mm.
listening is going, I relate. I
Yes.
relate. But now in this phase of life, I feel like I don't really know who I am outside of those roles. Hearing Raven's story made me wonder, how did she begin to trust herself again after everything changed? And how do I start rebuilding that trust in myself spiritually and emotionally when I feel so disconnected?
That's beautiful. So, first and
It's beautiful.
foremost,
And it also kind of
yeah,
makes me sad because I do think, we do spend so much of our lives focused on everybody else that we lose ourselves through that process.
we do.
The beautiful part is in midlife, we're finding ourselves again,
Yeah.
right? And that's the exploration, that's that navigation part. So, what are your thoughts on that? How did you start to trust yourself again?
Well, that's a loaded question because I really wasn't sure if I could rely on my cognitive function and ability at that time,
Yeah.
right? And so it really did sincerely come down to my relationship with spirit
Mhm.
and my own discernment and being willing, as I kind of mentioned about meditation, to really notice those aspects of self. One thing that I started to really focus on was who am I to others? And does that feel good? Is that reciprocated where necessary and not like in parenthood?
I was going to say, can you give me an example? Who am
Sure.
I to others?
Who am I to others? Meaning that whenever a friend calls me, am I the fixer? Am I the helper? Am I the
Hmm.
listener? Am I the hype girl? Right. And then of those roles, which ones really mattered to those that I love and care about and want to stay close to? And which of those roles could I let go of to free up
Hmm.
more space to get to know myself better? Because busyness is the opposite of strategy, right? And I think that when you ask almost anyone these days, how are you? Just really busy, right? And so eliminating the busyness first and foremost, I think is the strategy in order to start to check in with yourself about not just who you are, but where
Hmm.
are you in space and time in your mind while you're operating life every day.
And you and I, we've powwowed and like, yeah, on our busyness. We both do a lot. I
Yeah.
actually thrive
Yeah.
in productivity. I
Sure.
thrive when I have a lot going on. But I also thrive because I give myself, I believe right now,
Mm,
permission.
yeah.
I'm not perfect. I'm learning, but I
Sure.
agree with you. Like, I think quieting some of that busyness.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes we need the noise to allow the subconscious to continue to distract us from what we really might best serve us to change or to focus on.
Okay. So trusting in myself spiritually and emotionally when I feel so disconnected.
Mm.
Any other thoughts on that?
Yes, I would say one piece of advice, if you're day one, grab whichever notebook you paid $20 for because it was pretty and actually open it up and start writing some things down for yourself.
Mm.
Ask yourself the top 3 questions of number 1, I really do think it's so cool to ask, "How do you like your eggs?" Because it's not so deep. And it's something that
How do you like your eggs?
everybody said, maybe you don't like eggs at all. So maybe it's how you like your oatmeal. I don't know, but make it easy for yourself and palatable. Ask one simple question, but really ask yourself, how do I like that? Or is that the story that I've been telling everybody just because it's easier when it's on autopilot, right? And then number 2, find what practice really does feel good and safe to you in the moment to start exploring yourself deeper. Maybe that is saying, I'm going to give up my Friday night 30-minute binge Netflix event with friends and instead turn it into a pamper session for myself to where I really check in with myself for this week. And it really just does start with simple changes that allow you to trust yourself, to know you're going to continue to nurture yourself during these changes.
I love it. Was there a third?
If there was, I lost it. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's okay. I did that. I want to comment on the journaling part because I think that that's something that's been really helpful for me is I spend every morning, uh, starting my day with gratitude.
Mm.
And I write down 10. I mean, that's just because that's what I do. You could write down 1, 2, 3, you could write down 10. It doesn't matter. But I think just really like grounding myself in, like,
Mhm.
like, gosh, life can be crazy, but there's so many silver linings and having a grateful heart can just change I believe it's one of the quickest ways to healing.
Oh, 100%. I thank you for saying that. Gratitude is what has kept me motivated and also kept me on a productive path.
Mm-hmm.
Checking in every day, like you said, on those fundamental thank you for this life. Thank you
Yeah.
for my kiddos who are healthy and thriving. Thank you
Yeah.
for a husband who doesn't quit.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I
Yeah.
agree. If nothing else, your recommend of a gratitude practice would be excellent starting point
Yeah.
because it can help us to start unload those things that we check in every day and have to pinpoint and highlight this is what's wrong, this is what's not
Mhm.
changing, this is what's wrong. And the first place that we can start to change anything, even our relationships, is when we take a look at ourselves.
Mm. Yeah, going inward's important. On the spiritual side of things, I think with the gratitude habit, I feel like it can it can very much be in alignment with your relationship with God,
Mhm.
spirit, whatever you want, universe. For me, it's like thank you, God.
Yeah,
If that doesn't align with you, I think another way is just simply I am grateful for.
absolutely.
Because you don't even necessarily have to be thanking something.
Sure.
You could just find gratitude for something.
I agree.
So there's like there's two ways to look at it, right? Depending on how
Yeah.
you feel or where you're at in your spiritual journey or
Yeah. Well, I sincerely think that energy is everything. I
Mm.
really do. And our gratitude towards something greater, I think also there's something to be said for that. Not that everybody has to have a faith system, not that everybody has to view God or even believe in God. However, I would challenge anyone that sits in gratitude for a few weeks to try to name where they're pulling their inner strength from, if not from a higher source.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty deep, but I think that's what this is about, right? Midlife, we're deep. We
We're
are
deep.
deep when
Yes.
we are in midlife.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Dear Cathy, I feel stuck. I'm going through a big life transition, and honestly, I'm scared. Everything feels uncertain, and I don't know who I am anymore. I hear people talk about reconnecting with their intuition and healing, but I don't know where to start. How do I begin to find my way back to myself? And I
Sure.
feel like this is like a theme. We're talking a lot about
Yeah.
this, but what are some other thoughts? I mean, I don't know what's going on in this particular person's life, but it sounds like a lot. And I
Mm,
know I've had women on the podcast that have shared stories of adversity that have been
yeah.
really challenging. So when somebody is there, and they are trying to reconnect with their intuition and healing, like where do they start?
So for me, I'm going to say community. Find your people. I landed, and I really mean this, I feel like I landed in this perfectly selected group of yoginis at a yoga teacher training during the height of my brain injury with Samantha Hart at Yoga Home. And it was a 10-month exploration of yoga philosophy and yoga asana and just different ways of viewing the world. So I would challenge anyone who is trying to reconnect with self to find a community such as Conscious Colorado Collective that
Yeah.
you vibe with, any community at all, in all sincerity, to where you feel supported and you can have these open, non judgmental conversations. Have a safe space to have vulnerable discussions about all of it, because without having that sounding board, whether it's with a healer or with a friend or with a new friend, I think that
Mhm.
that's so important in order to feel supported and also not to give up.
I love that. I think vulnerability is another massive strength,
Sure.
that it's a gift that we can give ourselves. And it's really hard
Oh,
to lean in and to be honest and to have raw conversations.
yeah.
And sometimes maybe that is because you don't have that right community. So, how did you know going to this yoga retreat that those were your people?
I'm going to go back to I was led there by faith, by intuition. I didn't know that they were my people. And I would say that
Was it a
even
feeling? Was it a like when you got there? Was it just something you were just like, I'm home? Like,
sure, after a while, yes. But with anything, at least in my own experience, I'm not the natural. This is it. I need to explore it for a while. And I will say that thankfully, everybody that was in that group with me were just amazing humans that offered enough space for each of us to come with our sincere belief systems
mm-hmm,
and to not judge or shut down one another, but to really listen and to have four women, well, four of us in total, but three women that were dedicated to listening to one another's journey and where they were operating from, and from a psychological lens and a spiritual lens, and then to be accepted regardless of the differences.
mm-hmm,
That's the kind of community I want to be a part of, is
mm-hmm.
one where somebody can say, I'm feeling very uncomfortable because this thing is coming online for me. In my vibe tribe that I go to church with every Sunday, they don't get it. Can somebody, anybody help me not feel like I'm going against everything that I stand for? And I will say, having conversations with somebody outside of your comfort circle is so important regularly to make sure that you're challenging yourself in the right ways and that you do have a place to go and explore yourself deeper where it feels safe to do so.
Yeah. One of my go-tos, because I'm a counselor, is I mean, I'm thinking like you could find a counselor if you're feeling stuck and
Absolutely.
you're needing to process, and that can feel overwhelming and hard.
Absolutely.
But then it also makes me curious about the term healer and what are the types of healers that there are. So, like, who do you have as a part of your Conscious Colorado Collective
Sure.
that maybe somebody might explore leaning into?
Awesome.
And
Thank you for
maybe not
asking.
individual, but just big picture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have everything from Western med docs that have PhDs to Eastern practitioners who have studied rigorously for years to brand new energy healers who are new to the scene and realizing the efficacy and hands on healing with others, right? So I hope that answers your question. But I will say that with your mention of a counselor and the community, yes, right?
Mhm.
Not everybody is going to want to be vulnerable in a group setting. And I
Mhm.
think it's so important for folks to know that there are individuals who are willing to support them on their journey in a more intimate setting, but also that there is no tolerance for those who everybody gets a voice. Let me say
Mhm.
that. With Conscious Colorado Collective, everybody gets a voice. Every member is supported and heard. And just please find your person. Maybe it is the person that you sit next to in church every week and you just haven't felt bold enough to say, let's have lunch.
Yeah.
Step outside of your comfort zone, whatever that looks like for you, but know that that inner guidance is trying to push you towards growth, and it is uncomfortable. And I invite you to approach it.
I think that's really important that your inner guidance is pushing you. If you're feeling stuck and you're wanting to feel realigned and you're wanting to get back to yourself, you're ultimately being pushed to grow. And so I
Yes.
love that. I love it's kind of that. What is the thing that is going to make you step outside your comfort zone?
Right.
Maybe what's the thing that's holding you back?
Right.
Right. All right. Good stuff. Okay, a couple more. I've heard people talk about Reiki, and I'm really curious, but honestly, I don't fully understand what it is. What actually happens during a Reiki session, and how would you explain to someone like me who's open to it, but a little skeptical?
Sure.
That was a question from somebody else, but yeah.
Great. So for me, Reiki is spacious enough to not be a container for religion. Reiki, and I wish that I had it all broken out for you beautifully, but Reiki translates to energy, to pure energy. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong. And during a Reiki session, the practitioner becomes the conduit for healing energy, if you will, to be channeled through the body and to be given to the person that is receiving. I look at it very much the same as a hands on prayer. Reiki practitioners are not all created equal. None of us are in any of our industries. But I do think one thing that is worth asking before that you have a session with a Reiki practitioner is, where do they feel that they garner their energy from or through? And for me, whenever I call upon the energies, it is always Heavenly Father, and healing to me comes through Christ. And so I am rooted in my foundation of Christ like consciousness, if you will. And to me, knowing that I'm not the healer, that I am the conduit for the healing, and that I am providing a reminder to the client that this is the juice that will help your own body and your own energy system know how to heal itself, is so important. And it is hard to have the right languaging for all of these things.
Yeah.
And
It's confusing.
it's so confusing, and it gets very wordy because it is a very touchy thing. But I will say that I have never seen anything nefarious with Reiki, in terms of a healing session or anything at all, really. Everybody that approaches this modality seems to have endured years of talk therapy, which I have greatly benefited from myself, and do not think that it's something that should go away anytime soon. But what talk therapy couldn't do was offer relief for my soul and my nervous system in one session. And what that felt like was being held by an entire congregation in order for me to release things that were no longer serving me in just the first session. And where I went to study Reiki, it was for this reason, to make sure there wasn't some underlying hidden agenda that I was participating in that didn't serve my highest good and that was blasphemous to my own belief system. And I can affirm to you that, at least in the way that I was taught and in the tradition, Reiki is a healing modality, and we approach it as such. And I think that as we continue to see technology advance and measurements of our energy body, which are coming online now, we'll look at this with a more scientific lens, even in 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be excited about that.
Mhm.
Because I somebody that I've not studied it. I just know that I'm an energetic being. I'm an
Yeah.
empath. I hold a lot of energy. I can be around somebody who's anxious and I can feel anxious. I can be around somebody that just is like free and loving and light, and I feel that.
Yeah.
And so I have to really protect myself because of that, in a
Absolutely.
sense where the power of association is huge for me. And I would say it's probably that way for most.
Mhm.
But when I have done Reiki, the first time was super woo woo. And I was like, well, I'm not really sure, but I did feel better. And then I've tried it since. And I just, it's like, an energy massage. When I'm really tired or feel out of balance or maybe feel a little bit run down, that could be
Mhm.
from energy and stress and hormones and all the things that midlife is bringing to me. I literally just
Mm.
leave feeling balanced.
That's beautiful. I'm so glad to hear that.
So I don't know how that, if that answers even anything. I'm not
I
a
get it.
professional, but why does it feel that way for me?
Sure.
Why do you think after Reiki I feel that way when I come in feeling another way?
Sure. Well, let's look at it in a simple way. Let's look at it as the glass half full or empty, right? I am sincerely the water hose. The Reiki practitioner is the conduit. When operating in integrity, they know that healing is not coming from self, it's coming through them and from source energy, right? And for me, source energy, I refer to as God.
Right.
Yes. And so whenever I open the session and I call upon guidance and assistance, I ask for assistance from angels, from your guardian angels, from
Mm,
mine. And then what it looks like then, once the nervous system settles down and the client settles in for the session, it's almost like the tap has been turned on. And now I've been able to find the cup and the water or the energy is able to be funneled into this vessel that is depleted because we are all running on empty
mhm,
and we are all searching for ways to refill our cup. And sincerely, Reiki as a self practice can be done at home to fill your own cup if you don't feel comfortable opening your container for somebody different and
interesting.
without a certification. And that's something we can talk about at a different time. All of that to say is that is a new skill set that is being introduced to your body and it is natural and it's arcane medicine that's been in our DNA for the test of time and allowing yourself the ability to allow yourself to receive the boost,
Mm,
if you will, is part of it.
mm,
And then being able to channel that energy through me and into the client is a gift. And
mhm.
again, I go back to it is not so unlike hands on healing.
So how do you feel sometimes? I imagine, does it exhaust you? Does it energize you when you're done?
Sure. The great question. In the beginning, it did exhaust me because I didn't have my own spiritual hygiene in place. And that is one thing that I think we've touched on a little bit is how do I know that I'm not betraying my family, my belief system?
Mhm,
And it goes back to spiritual hygiene. It goes back to what are you doing every day with your gratitude practice? And
mhm,
before you get in your car, what kind of protection are you calling in for yourself that day?
mhm,
And for myself, before I see a client, have I taken the time to ground, to meditate, to clear out so that I can focus solely on this person and not the ego? Because in my own sessions, I get messages. I don't do it on purpose, but I will get messages that I feel are being delivered straight from the divine to serve the client on the table and not the ego.
mhm.
And for that reason, I let about 20 to 30 messages go by before I will say, fine, you want me to say this thing, God, I will listen. And then I'll deliver it. But it goes back to, again, that spiritual hygiene. And to get back to answering your question, until I was able to find the way to be the conduit and to know that it wasn't my own energy, that it depleted me. And
Mhm.
giving over to the fact that there were practices that needed to be in place to be able to be the container was a game changer.
So interesting.
So lengthy.
No, no,
Apologies.
no. I really just feel grateful. I hope that others that are listening are finding value. And if they're not, then it's not meant for them.
Sure.
Right. I believe that. But last question. Dear Cathy, I'm starting to explore more spiritual practices in my own life. But I worry about how to talk to my kids about it, especially since my husband and I are raising them in a more traditional Christian home. I'd love to hear how Ravyn approaches this in her own children. And we talked about this a little bit. Maybe you can glean a little bit more. How does she explain her spiritual path in a way that honors their beliefs, but also stays true to who she is?
This is great. This brought up a story for me that's kind of funny. So my Reiki teacher, Susan Kyoki, is rooted in Tibetan Buddhism and has given us such beautiful tools like Saloon practice. It's a breathwork practice.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing outside of the box other than you're working with your own breath and you're aligning your own energy.
Mm-hmm.
One of my sons walked in on me doing Saloon, and there's some hand motions, and you're in it. And he was like, "What's happening? Mom, are you okay?" To top it off, I was out of white candles, and I like to light a candle during each practice. So I only had black left. So I had a black candle burning. So he really thought I was in it. I have nothing against black candles, by the way. I think they're great to eliminate some things. However, all that to say, I sat him down and explained that this is a way that I go inward and I balance my energy system, and that this is more progressed than where he has to be right now or what he needs to worry about right now. Much like when we have the talk with kids, there are ways to give them information and guidance that will help keep them safe and make sure it's age appropriate. And I think it's very the same with the psyche as we begin to explore spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Yeah.
helpful?
Yeah. Is there anything else that just at home, everything else just feels normal?
Sure.
Otherwise, you probably just pray together, you go to church together.
I wouldn't say it's normal. So, where my husband could bless our home and has once a month, I like to sage and cleanse my home energetically, and
Mhm.
I will involve any kiddo who's willing. I have about 2 out of 3 who will duck and hide. And I have one who's like, "Give me the feather and let me help get the smoke up into the corners." So
Mhm.
I think there's a beautiful thing about spiritual practices such as cleansing your home once a month that you can introduce to your kiddos early on to let them know that we are commanding our space energetically and spiritually. And if we're not doing that as a family on our knees, then there are ways that we can do it for our family and on behalf of our family, and introducing this in ways that are digestible and productive as opposed to going down rabbit holes that maybe they're not ready yet for.
Let's talk about cleansing your home,
Sure.
because I have been curious about that, but I haven't done it.
Sure.
So, tell me if that's a practice that I would want to start? What would I do? And how does that
Yeah.
benefit?
Well, I will say that it is a practice that I encourage most everyone to do. I have to venture to guess that this was probably an arcane practice to get us all to open up our windows and to get viruses out of our home with using sage and Palo Santo. It's a beautiful way, though, I think, too, to assess your environment. Is there more bickering happening this week or in this month? What have I brought into my home that has changed the vibe? Do I want to feel different when I walk in? Do I not feel spirit when I walk into my home? And so, what I like to do is I start on the middle floor of my house, in the middle of the room. I light sage. I go in a certain directional order to clear every corner, just like it's a cobweb with
Mm.
smoke.
Mhm.
And I breathe intention into that. And I
Mhm.
just say, "Please bless our home."
Mhm.
Eliminate conversations, topics, themes that aren't going to serve us. And I'll use that flavor of languaging depending on which room I'm in to just breathe life and positive energy and intention into our space.
Mhm.
And you can do that with sage, Palo Santo. You can also get small cups of coarse salt and set in each corner of your room. That's another way to do it. Super simple ways that I have to say, as a woman who is rediscovering herself, has made me feel empowered in my spiritual journey and has brought some empowerment back into everyday life at home.
That's awesome. I have a good friend, Jen Weiss, who is a feng shui expert.
I think I've met her. Beautiful.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
And we've had her come in and been
Yeah.
intentional with. But one of the things that I remember taking away from her was just how important it is to keep your front door clean.
Absolutely.
Like sweep your front door, open and close your door. We're all so busy and
Yes.
going in and out of the garage, like park in the garage, and that a lot of times we don't use the front door. And so
Ah,
I think just in everyday culture, you see so many people drive in the garage, shut the door,
that's
you know,
right.
and so the front door isn't always used. And anyway, that's been something I've been mindful of.
Definitely.
So you're just welcoming in just good energy.
Absolutely.
So
And I mean, I love Tibetan bells. There's something about bells that break up stagnant energy. So that's something you can hang on your door. But I like what you said about keeping it clear, not letting clutter get by the door, even decorations. You want the
Mhm.
entire room to be clear. So Thank you for saying that.
Well, I have one more thought that I want to wrap up with. And I just coming back to this intersection of religion and spirituality.
Mhm.
In your own experience, do you think that the spirituality and your relationship with God or your Reiki practice, your healing stuff that you're leaning into that
Mm.
you're not yet quite teaching your kids, but do you think there's an intersection? Do
Yeah,
you think like that those are all gifts from God?
absolutely.
And for somebody that is like, gosh, I feel shame around this. I
Mhm.
want to lean in, but it doesn't feel right. Do you have any last
Oh,
parting thoughts?
absolutely. First and foremost, again, find your people
Mm-hmm.
because I've met many a Reiki practitioner and I don't have any disparaging comments against anyone, but it's like a hairdresser, right? I think we might have talked a little about that.
Mm-hmm.
Find somebody who does resonate with your path. Find somebody who does feel safe to discuss what it is that you're feeling called to explore. And then what up with that? What is the holdback? What is the drawback? Is it the change that is scary?
Mm.
Is it the way that other people will see you, which 90% of the time we're all focused on ourselves. So I encourage you to seek elsewhere. And also, I would just ask first and foremost, what are those barriers that are preventing you from diving further into this one thing that you're feeling called into? And I think that it's also noteworthy to mention that women in healing has always been there, but it's been demonized for the ages.
Mm-hmm.
And the use of herbology deemed you a witch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the use of Reiki means that you're now channeling spirits that you're not aware of. All that are, at least in my own experience, false. And again, it goes back to who I've been willing to sit in community with too.
So it's kind of like, if you're curious about it, just lean in,
I think it
find the
is
people, ask the questions, continue to explore.
do your homework.
Yeah.
Yes. And if any time along that journey something is off and you feel guided to separate from that, just notice.
Mm-hmm.
Let it be informative. And that can be another way to start trusting yourself better,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that you'd asked early. How
Yeah.
did I trust myself during this reinvention? It was testing different things, educating myself, finding my people. And then when something fell off, valuing that was not a false messaging system and being willing to action, but disregarding any discomfort that came with it.
I think for me, it's been just leaning into a conversation with God,
Yeah.
right? Like if I'm feeling like nervous or worried or, just going directly to source and having a conversation, that relationship has been so profound. We do that through prayer.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what prayer is it's a conversation.
Yeah.
So anyway, it is for me, but
Me too. I agree. I mean, that's where I have my best work is with God
mm-hmm.
and just being able to go there humbly and raw and imperfectly and know that I'm leaving better every time is so encouraging. So I hope that others will hear how you also commune with God and take from that.
Well, thank you for just having this conversation with me. I think
Yeah.
it's one that, we need to continue to have. Like the spirituality conversation, giving ourselves permission to lean into that. In midlife, we are exploring, we're questioning, we're leaning into purpose. We're wanting to this next phase of life in a lot of ways to look different because we're actually able to spend time on ourselves. We have space, we have time, right? And so I think that it's just such an important conversation and become curious. I think that's my biggest thing is just for me, I'm going to stay curious
I love that.
because it has helped me and served me in so many ways. So
I love that.
thank you for being a safe person for me to have this conversation with. And I'm so grateful for you. And I hope others found value. And if you want to connect with Ravyn, we're going to link all of her handles and places to connect in the show notes. So, all right, guys, have a great day. Hey friend, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. I hope it brought you value, a few laughs, and maybe even an aha moment. The conversation doesn't end here. We've got an amazing community of women waiting to connect with you. Join us on Facebook in the Girlfriend's Guide to Midlife podcast community group, where we share takeaways, swap stories, and cheer each other on. You can also find me on Instagram at Girlfriends Midlife Podcast for daily inspiration, sneak peeks of upcoming episodes, and a behind-the-scenes look at this midlife journey, or on my personal handle at Dear Cathy 719, where I share about my day-to-day life, real estate, and what I find inspiration in. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love it if you left a quick rating and review. It helps more women like us discover the podcast and reminds me that I'm not just talking to myself over here. And don't forget to hit the follow button so you'll be the first to know when the next episode drops. Check out the show notes for links to connect with today's guest and all the goodies we have mentioned. Until next time, keep thriving and showing the world how fabulous midlife can be. You've got this.